Hello and welcome to this first video in a little series on some narrative work and some storytelling that we would like you to look at. So this was inspired by me spending too much time on Amazon, other websites are available, and finding one of these. So this is, what way are you going, Phillips? Death Trap Dungeon by Ian Livingstone, and it is a fighting fantasy book. I'll put a description in the I'll put a link in the description, sorry, so that you can see it. But it's one of those books where you can choose your own path, and you can develop your stats and your stamina and your health and bits and pieces like that. And you go through and you choose which way through. So you don't read it in a linear fashion, like page by page by page. You choose what section you jump to as you go through. And I'm sure you've all kind of done kind of D&D in a far more advanced version of that, or you might have done slightly simplified versions of that. But what I wanted to do is just kind of kickstart my own understanding of storytelling and narrative, and it was something that I used to read a lot of when I was younger, so I thought I'd see if I could find it, and there's a few of them that are still available, and bits and pieces of some different ones that have been done. So that's where we started, and based off of the videos that Chris has done with ink and some of the narrative stuff that he's looking at on there, I thought I'd have a little look around and see what we could do this week. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is the hero's journey, or the Monomyth. Okay, and this is a theory or a piece of work that was put together by Joseph Campbell, who wrote about this. He's a professor that wrote about this kind of back in 1949. So it's quite an old theory, but it still stands up and it's still used very much in narrative stories that you would have watched during lockdown, that you would have played during lockdown and beyond, and different bits and pieces like that. I'm going to use an example that's very close to my heart over the next few videos, just to go through the different stages. But essentially, what he was talking about was looking at how stories have come down and been passed down through time, and how they all have or not all of them, but how a lot of them have a common narrative structure as you go through. And since its publication, it's been kind of attributed to a number of examples, like I say, throughout. In its basic form, it's the hero's journey, which is another name for it. So the Monomyth, or the hero's journey. And it follows the archetype called hero, on his journey to achieve great things, or to achieve great deeds throughout. And at different points of the journey, which is what creates our framework, it's separated out. So it's separated into three main parts that you could look at. You've got the departure, where our hero leaves where they're used to and their kind of their starting point. The initiation, where they learn about or they find out about something that is going to happen, and then their return, as they come back to maybe where they started, or a safer place similar to that. It's a similar pattern if you think of a free act structure, and we've talked about this a little bit before, where you've got the setup, you've got your confrontation, and you've got your resolution. So your start, your middle, and your end. And we've looked at that a little bit when we've done narrative pieces before. However, kind of while that might focus on plot points, the focus of the hero's journey are the stages that the hero himself or themselves go through. So we are going to look at that as we go through, and we have a little look at some examples. So let's have a little look at some ideas. So there you go. So you've got a quote there. A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. So an excerpt from Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, from 1949, where this theory kind of stems from. So let's have a little look at the Monomyth. There you go. So you've got a bit of a graphical section there, and you can see it's separated into different areas, and we're going to go through and have a look at each of these in the next kind of series of videos, so that you can start breaking down how this structure can really help as you are trying to write your own story, and looking at how and when things might happen, plot devices might come into your story, changes might happen in the narrative, and different elements like that. So there are 12 sections that we're going to go through. We're going to look at kind of 3 at a time, so we'll do 4 videos after this so that you've got one for each day of this week, including this one. What I want you to do is think about how that can bring together your own story. So I'm going to use, and there's no prizes for guessing this, Star Wars. All right, very close to my heart. We've just had May the 4th, so if you're watching this kind of at the right time anyway. And I know a fair bit about Star Wars. I've grown up with it. I love it, and you can see all the different kind of random memorabilia of Star Wars around me in my room. But you can apply this to other elements, and you can apply it to other narratives as well. Star Wars is a well-documented one, and George Lucas, who created Star Wars, is kind of on record as stating that the Monomyth and the hero's journey was part of the influence and part of the kind of thinking of when he was putting the story together. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to go through different sections of Star Wars 4, A New Hope, which was the first theatrical release way back in 1977. But for those of you going through chronologically, it's the 4th movie in the series. So that's the example that I'm going to use, and we're going to look at that, like I say, over the next few videos. This is all leading to a task that I want you to do. So on screen now is another section of the site that Chris led you to the other day. Now this one is slightly different, and again I'll put the link in the description. This is called inkwriter.com, and it is all web based, so as long as you've got access to the internet you'll be able to get on with this, which is fantastic. And I'm not going to go through and show you how to do this. You can see here that there is a tutorial section on there. It explains a lot better how to use this than I can. I'm just going to show you very quickly, excuse me, the setup of it on this very brief example that I've got, but you can go through and you can follow the tutorial and learn how to use this. I would encourage you to sign in, because if you sign in you can save your progress and you can share it a lot easier than if you don't. All right, so just sign in, got a Gmail account, either way is fine. Okay, and what you can hopefully see, so at the moment I'm in the right setup of this, so this is where I can go through and I can edit, and you've got a title there, you've got an author's name as you go through, and this is where you start writing. So you've got an option here to write a paragraph or a section of your story. Okay, so keeping with the theme, I put once upon a time in a galaxy not too far from here, so slightly tweaking the narrative, shall we say, and then you can start putting in the different options. So this is where it goes back to the choose your own adventure story that I found kind of on Amazon and shared with you before. Okay, so you can go through and go, right, okay, I'm going to go this way, I'm going to live the young sorcerer, click on here, and then I will get a new option that comes up there, okay, whose name was Dave. All right, and that's where my story ends, because I didn't do much more than that. But you can start seeing where you can go through, and you can go back on the right section and you can look at the other one, lived as an old wizard whose name was Bob. Okay, so you can have different strands of the story. Now what the idea is that they will link at some point and at different points, and the tutorial on Inkwriter will show you how to do that. So what I'd like you to do is to write your own choose your own adventure story. Okay, it can be about whatever you like. You can take a story that already exists, if you like, and write your version of it, and maybe write the different sections, the things that you haven't seen. So if it was a movie, for instance, it might be the scenes that we didn't get to see up on the screen. Okay, and you might do your version of the events that happened behind that. You might take a game a game narrative that you want to expand on and look at. You might make up your own story completely. It's over to you, really. What we'd like you to do is put something together where you can create your own choose your own adventure story and have it ready for us by the 22nd of May 2020. All right, so that's when your deadline will be, and we'll share with you how you're going to update that and share that with us on this. It's very simple. You can just share a link straight from this site so that we can go through, because once you've done, you see I'm in the right section here, you can jump to the read section, and this is how your story will look when someone is reading it. Okay, so you can go through, and let's just go back, so we go back to the start. There we go. So this is what it looks like. You'll have your paragraph there, and you read through what you want to do, and then you can choose your options as you go through. Okay, it's really simple to use, it's really intuitive. It has the kind of the basics that we want, so you don't need to worry about changing the font or anything like that. You can kind of bold things up, you can add images if you want to, but essentially we are looking at the narrative. And what I'm going to do is go through the hero's journey with you in different videos this week, so that you've got some idea and some explanation. They're not going to be very long. We're just going to go through the main parts and look at how that develops using Star Wars as our example. So by the end of this week, you'll have some idea of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey theory, and you can use that to apply to your own narrative as you're going through. Okay, so the site is inklewriter.com. It's open source and it's free to use. You just need to sign up with an email and you can get going. Like I say, the tutorial's on there. It's worth having a look through the first couple of sections. You may not need to do the whole tutorial before you get writing, but have a little look at the first bits just to get you going. All right, so that's what I need you to do. Just a couple of other things before I finish for today. On your email with this will be a link to not only this video but also a video a series that Chris is starting to put together of some basics in Blender. So look at the first one of that, please, so that you can go through and start playing around with that. So if you've got access to Blender, kind of download that and get working on that Chris has set. He also asked me to remind you that those of you that have looked at and gone through the academic writing piece, then make sure that you put that up. 6 people, make sure that you're looking at that, because it's a really key skill that we've had highlighted from students that are already at university, of something that would be really beneficial to look at as you go from college into university, the skills that you might need to refresh and to go over, or to look at for the first time potentially. All right, other than that, that's it for me today, and we'll do the next section on the hero's journey in our next video. I'll see you soon.